California in 1928, and his first job was as a fireman in the Plainfield District firehouse. He rather rapidly heard that they were forming a new high school in Davis and were looking for teachers, and he came and applied. And he was interviewed by Delbert Marshall, the first principal of Davis High School, and eventually the superintendent of all Davis schools for a good number of years, and he was hired on the spot. It was understood at the time that he was hired, that he wasn't being hired just as a teacher, but that he would be responsible for all the athletic teams, which at that time consisted of football, basketball, and track. And Dewey took a double block south or north of the old brick schoolhouse, and with his own hands he built a regulation football field surrounded by a regulation track, and took care of these things himself for many years until he finally got some help sometime in the late 1940s. He also built all the track and field pits, including the pole vault, broad jump, shot put, and this sort of thing. And so he really started the Davis High School athletic program virtually from scratch. It was named by Dewey Halden almost as soon as he hit town. He had been in the Army Air Corps in World War I, and there was a famous French Army unit called the Blue Devils in that war. And Dewey said that his fighter squadron also called themselves the Blue Devils, although this, as far as I know, was never an official name of any type. But when he arrived at Davis High School, he immediately started calling his athletic teams the Blue Devils, and somehow it's stuck ever since, even though he used to get a lot of heat from it, and probably they still do.
Well, of course, I was born and raised in Davis, and Dewey is the only coach I ever knew. And he started in 1928 when I was 2 years old, so I grew up with Dewey. And anyway, he was my biology teacher in high school as well, and my brothers and my uncle all had him as coach and teacher. And he was just a great guy. He did so much.
We had 4 sports in high school in those days. That was it. There wasn't anything for girls. It was football, basketball, track, and baseball. He coached everything except baseball.
He coached from 28 to 52, and then quit for 2 years and came back from 55. And he came back because he felt he had an extremely good team that he'd watched for many years, and he wanted to coach it. And we ended up being the #1 rated small school in the state.
The only teachers in those days that wanted you to call him by his first name, which was really unusual. But it made you closer to the man. As I mentioned, you know, a lot of integrity, and everybody just loved the man. I mean, he was a straight shooter. He would do anything he can for you, and did many times.
Well, the other thing that I remember, my uncle was my grandmother was raising my uncle. He was like an older brother to me. But anyway, she was supporting him, and they couldn't afford gym shoes. I mean, even if they were $3 or $4 during the Depression, you just didn't, that was quite a bit of money. And there were several people, my uncle being one of them, that found gym shoes in his locker. And this was one of the things that never with any fanfare or anything, he just knew the kids that couldn't afford them, and Dewey made sure that they had gym shoes.
I've never seen a coach with that kind of record my entire life, before or since. You just played your heart out for the man. Really an outstanding person in every way, and coach.
Davis was so small then, and we didn't have Little League and all those things to keep the kids busy and off the streets. But Dewey opened the gym every Saturday and Sunday. He had it open all day for all the kids that wanted to come, and he was there to counsel them and everything. And anyway, of course, he had an ulterior motive. He taught the kids his basketball style from the time they were tiny.
He's also an excellent basketball coach, excellent track coach. An example is when we won that championship our senior year. We won all the sports that year. We had a good group of athletes. The football banner, they put all the championships on the wall, end to end, all the way around the basketball gym. And that enclosed the entire circle. 100 and some championship banners. And he coached every one of them. 100 and some championships. This guy was phenomenal.
It's now been 20 years since his death, and there are a great number of people in Davis that probably don't know anything about him, but at one time he was very probably the best known man in town.
I'll just say that I've never met a finer man in my life. And there's a whole lot of people who tell you the same thing.